My name is Untitled, and I am thrilled to be inviting you back to another art lesson sponsored by the Hoboken Public Library. Today's lesson is going to be focusing on the techniques of doing shading. The last two lessons we did an intro into figure drawing. We did an exercise called blind contour, and then we did work with gestural drawing. We talked about the proportions of the human body, and today we are going to work on shading, because in order to complete your finished drawing of the figure, you need to know how to create volume, form, and shape of the human figure. And the best way to do that is with shading techniques. I want to first talk to you about the different tools that you can use in shading. My favorite tool, and probably the easiest one to get, I'm sure you have them laying around your house, is a regular number 2 pencil. Other tools that you can use, you can find them online at places like dickblick.com, which is an art supply store, are graphite and graphite crayon. Graphite, quite simply, is a pencil without the wooden coating. And the beauty of graphite is it's very soft and easy to spread. And when I show you the techniques of shading, you're going to see why that is an advantage to your work. I'm going to start by using pencil, and I will go over that with the graphite so it will be easier for you to see. I've placed a round cylindrical object for me to sketch and draw. It's great to start with a very simple form in the beginning because it will enable you to really explore the darks and lights of a smooth round object. There are different techniques for shading. One is to use the side of the pencil and lay a soft gray ground. Another is to use the tip of the pencil. This is particularly good for creating darker shadows. And finally, a technique called cross-hatching, which is my personal favorite way to do shading. However, cross-hatching for folks who are beginners or just starting out with figurative drawing may be a little bit challenging because doing cross-hatching is labor-intensive and time-consuming. I'm going to demonstrate it for you now, and I welcome you to try and experiment with it on your own. So cross-hatching is done just the way it sounds. You lay down a series of lines going in one direction, and then you cross over them. You cross over them on top, going in a different direction. The closer you place the lines together, the darker the shadow will be. The further apart you make the lines, the lighter the shadow will be. So, side of your pencil for a soft shadow, tip of your pencil for the darker areas, and cross-hatching is the final technique. Another tool that you might want to invest in is something called the stump. And stumps are quite simply very tightly rolled cardboard. And they come in different sizes. Stumps are used for smoothing and blending the shadow that you have created. And in a moment, I'm going to explain why blending is so incredibly important in the shading process. I'm now going to switch to using graphite because it will be easier for you to see. And I'm going to be drawing this wooden globe. I'm hoping that you can see the very dramatic shadow created by the lights above. The most important concept to understand in doing shading and creating three-dimensional volume on a flat two-dimensional surface is to know where the light is coming from. If you can locate the source of light and then notice where it hits the object or the person that you're trying to draw, it makes it incredibly easy to work. So for me at the moment, as you can see, the light is coming from above and it's hitting the object that I'm looking at right here on the top. So the object is brighter on the right side with a very light, bright highlight on the top. And then on the left-hand side, it's in deeper shadow. Also, I want you to notice the shadows underneath. They actually replicate the shape of the globe on top, and they are extremely dark underneath the object. All right. When you are doing shading of a rounded object, and particularly if you're using shading in the human figure, you want to make the shadow follow the form of the shape. You must start light with your shadow. It's much easier to add dark shadow than it is to try and get rid of or erase dark. So start light, we will gradually add darker shadow as we go. My object is curved, my shadow follows the curve of the object that I'm drawing. I start light and I get darker as I go. I use my stump, and if you don't have a stump, you can use a piece of paper towel, a napkin, or your index finger. You can use it to blend. Why do we want to blend? If you don't blend your shading, the object will still look flat. You don't want to have distinct stripes of dark gray and then lighter gray. You need to blend the shadows, the shading together in order to make the object look three-dimensional. If there is a division between the darker and lighter shadows, it will make the object look flat. But if there's a blend so that it looks rounded, you're going to have a great deal of success with your shading. Notice the way I'm following the curve of the object that I'm looking at. Now I'm looking at the under part of the globe and a little bit on the right-hand side of the globe. This area is in deep shadow. You may not be able to see that, but from where I'm standing, the curve of the shadow goes all the way around the bottom of the globe. Again, I'm taking my stump, or you can use your finger, and I'm blending. I'm following the curve of the object. I hope you're noticing too that I keep looking at what I'm trying to draw. It's very difficult to try and draw from memory. It's always much more successful to have the eye. Continue with your blending, and do remember to follow the curve of the object that you are drawing. So this object is not rigid with straight up and down sides. Therefore, the shadow is going to be curved just the way the object is. Notice how vigorously I'm blending the shadow. The more blending you do, the more three-dimensional the object will look. Okay, now I'm going to focus on the extremely dark shadow on the bottom. It's important to see this shadow because it will help you to ground the object on the table. It's important when you're doing a figure too, because you want to put shadow underneath and behind the figure in order to make it look truly three-dimensional and real. So here we go. It's extremely dark underneath, and now you have the opportunity to really go dark and not worry about it flattening the image. This dark shadow underneath is going to make the object just pop right off the page, literally pop visually off the page. And because of the way the light is hitting the orb, the shadow actually has a very distinct oval shape of its own. That extends quite far underneath. I'm using the tip of the graphite to make it as black and dark as possible underneath. So you can see, even with just a very little bit of drawing, that you can make an object that looks truly three-dimensional. If there are light white highlights in the object that you're drawing, you can take an eraser and lift some of those white specks out of the shadow that you've created. Now, I don't have enough shading here at the moment to make that look very dramatic, so I'm going to add a little bit more shadow on top of the globe.